as like a very like present dad, like with his children. So
the courtroom buzzed with a nervous tension so thick it seemed to shake the very air. You could feel it, the kind of pressure that builds when too many secrets are about to be dragged into the light. Cameras clicked in a synchronized frenzy. Reporters leaned forward with sharpened pens, and the fans of Sister Wives sat on the edge of their seats, eyes glued to every flicker of emotion. On one side of the courtroom stood Kody Brown, no longer the charismatic patriarch of a plural family, but a man unraveling piece by piece. His famous curls were tied tightly behind his head like he was holding himself together with a string. But the look in his eyes, that raw storm of resentment, pain, and desperation, told everyone this wasn't just another tabloid moment. "This isn't just a divorce," he thundered, slamming his hand down on the plaintiff's table, voice cracking under the weight of his own fury. "She didn't just walk away, she robbed us. She took the land, the dreams we built, and my daughter." He turned sharply, his finger pointed like a blade at the woman across from him, Kody Brown. For 25 years, she had been his partner, his supporter, the quiet one in the background. But today, she wasn't quiet. She didn't even have to speak. Her silence was deafening. She sat upright, shoulders back, wearing a modest olive blouse and dark slacks, her face calm but unreadable. If pain had ever lived there, it had been mastered, channeled into strength. She didn't flinch under his accusations. She didn't break. She was no longer the woman who waited quietly to be noticed. She was the woman who had said, "Enough." Beside her, her attorney Angela Reeve leaned in and whispered, "Stay composed. He's unraveling himself." Kody gave a barely perceptible nod. She understood what this moment was. Not just a trial about land or custody, but the last desperate gasp of a man trying to rewrite the ending of a story he no longer controlled. In the front row sat their children, Wendlyn, Peden, Aspen, Mykelti, and little Truly. 5 lives molded by years of dysfunction, now forced to watch their parents battle in a courtroom full of strangers. Wendlyn's jaw was rigid, clenched, with quiet rage. Peden tapped his foot relentlessly, unable to disguise his anxiety. Aspen and Mykelti sat tensely, trying to protect Truly, whose small hands were folded tightly in her lap. She stared downward, confused and overwhelmed. Around them sat the rest of the family, a silent audience of sister wives who had once shared dreams but now watched them fall apart. Janelle Brown sat stiffly, conflicted, her loyalty torn between truth and familiarity. Her eyes focused ahead, refusing to glance at either Kody or Kody. She had poured time and money into Coyote Pass too. Mary Brown, always the sidelined first wife, sat like a statue. Her pain was real, but her face gave nothing away. And Robin Brown, the only wife still legally connected to Kody, covered. Her mouth with trembling fingers. Whether her shock was for Kody or for the public spectacle, no one could say. The sharp crack of the gavel brought silence. "This court is now in session," the judge declared. The case of Brown versus Brown, Mr. Kody Brown versus Ms. Kody Brown. Allegations of land fraud, verbal contract breach, and unauthorized custody relocation will now be examined. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Pens hit notepads. Cameras zoomed in. Kody's face didn't move, but her eyes glistened. Angela stood tall. "Your Honor," she began, her voice calm but firm, "we intend to prove this isn't about fraud or neglect. It's about control, about emotional manipulation, about a woman who was pushed too far and finally chose her peace over her silence." From the other side, Kody's attorney scoffed. "She chose destruction," he muttered, loud enough for the gallery to hear. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Let's proceed with opening statements. Mr. Brown?" Kody stood slowly, brushing down the front of his blazer with trembling hands, as though trying to press the wrinkles out of the last pieces of his crumbling identity. "Kody was never legally married to me," he began, his voice trying to reclaim confidence. "But we were bonded in spirit. We shared a life, land, dreams, children." He looked directly at the judge. When she left, she didn't just walk out of a relationship. She secretly sold her portion of Coyote Pass. She took our daughter, truly, across state lines without my consent. That land was mine. That little girl was mine. That life.
I'm worried that my relationship with my father will be desolate, will not exist anymore.
That life we built, that was mine too. He paused dramatically, letting his words linger like smoke in the courtroom. The silence was thick, but Christine didn't waver. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her soul, it stood tall. She had already survived more than any legal accusation could ever touch. This was not just a courtroom. This was a battlefield. A place where history would clash with truth, where years of buried wounds would be torn open, and where an entire country would bear witness to the unraveling of a family that once claimed unity. The judge turned his gaze to the defense. Miss Brown, your response? Angela rose once more. Christine Brown will testify that she gave her all, emotionally, financially, physically, to a vision she was never truly part of. She will provide evidence that her departure was necessary, not malicious. Her choices were rooted in love, not betrayal. The judge nodded. Very well. We will begin witness testimony in the next session. Recess for 10 minutes. The gavel came down again, and Christine exhaled. Not relief, but clarity. The murmurs behind her rose once more, a tidal wave of speculation. But inside, she felt firm. This wasn't about land. This was about loyalty. This was about power, freedom, and finally being heard. When the judge returned, face stern and focused, he wasted no time. We'll now hear the plaintiff's first witness. Kody didn't hesitate. Call Robin Brown to the stand. Christine's expression held, calm, steady, but her knuckles whitened as she laced her fingers together. In the gallery, Janelle audibly gasped. Mary looked away, unable to bear what came next. Robin stood and made her way confidently to the front of the courtroom, her navy blue blouse crisp, a delicate silver cross around her neck. Her eyes looked clear at first glance, but up close they shimmered, not with tears but tension. She raised her right hand and took the oath, voice soft but steady. Mrs. Brown, Kody's lawyer began, can you tell the court how Christine's departure impacted your family and your future? Robin nodded slowly, sorrowfully, and the courtroom braced for impact.
Like I needed to do something to earn love or earn acceptance, or I had to do something a certain way.
It wasn't just her walking away from Kody, Robin said, her voice tightening with emotion. It was a rejection of all of us. Everything we built, everything we dreamed of. Christine walked away like none of it mattered. We were supposed to build Coyote Pass together as one united family. Leave something behind for our children. A legacy. But she sold her share and never even told the rest of us. Her words were cold, her gaze locked in on Christine with a glare that could pierce steel. It was betrayal. Christine's jaw clenched, but her eyes never left Robin. Let her paint the picture, Christine thought. Let her tell the world this sanitized version of events. But Christine knew the story underneath, the one that hadn't been edited for cameras. Robin continued, her voice trembling now. And she took truly without permission. Kody didn't even know they had moved to Utah until it was already done. There was no goodbye, no warning, just silence. Christine leaned toward her lawyer and whispered firmly, "Ask her why Kody wasn't home to say goodbye." Angela gave a small nod, already prepared. When it was the defense's turn to cross-examine, Angela stood with calm control, her voice deceptively light. "Mrs. Brown," she began, "you stated that Christine's departure was a rejection of the family. Is that correct?" Robin nodded stiffly. "Yes," Angela continued. "And in the 2 years leading up to that departure, where was Kody spending most of his time?" Robin shifted in her seat. "Mostly at my house," she admitted. Angela gave a slight nod. "Yes or no, please?" Robin sighed. "Yes." Angela pressed forward gently but deliberately. During that time, did Christine receive equal support? Equal love? Equal time? The courtroom fell still. Robin dropped her eyes and said quietly, "No." Angela took a step closer. Do You recall Christine asking for meetings to discuss the future of Coyote Pass, only for those meetings to be delayed, ignored, or canceled altogether? Robin hesitated. I wasn't part of all those discussions, she said cautiously. Angela leaned in. So is it possible that Christine wasn't being rebellious, but rather excluded? That she wasn't defiant, but dismissed? The silence was sharper than any sound. Robin didn't answer. Her silence said enough. Angela delivered the final blow. Mrs. Brown, if Kody was so devastated about Truly being moved, can you tell this court the last time he spent an entire weekend alone with her before Christine left? Robin's face crumpled. She shook her head. I don't know. Angela nodded, stepped back, and softly said, no further questions. Kody fidgeted in his seat, clearly agitated. His strongest ally had just been unraveled on the stand. But what came next was something no one in that courtroom could have fully prepared for. Christine stood. Her heels clicked against the floor like a slow, steady drumbeat of defiance. With her head held high and her hands composed, she walked toward the witness stand, not as a reality TV character, but as a woman reclaiming her voice. She raised her right hand, took the oath, and sat down with the grace of someone who had waited 25 years for this moment. Her lawyer approached slowly. Mrs. Brown, would you please explain to the court why you chose to leave? Christine's eyes fixed on the wall ahead. Because I was invisible, she said. The words struck like thunder. Gasps rippled through the gallery. She didn't pause. I gave my life to that family. I homeschooled 13 children, many of them not even biologically mine. I cooked, cleaned, supported, stood behind Kody in silence while he overlooked me. I swallowed my pain to keep the family intact. But in the end, the dream shattered anyway, and no one seemed to care that I was still standing in the rubble. Then she turned, looking directly at Kody. Her voice didn't waver. You stopped coming home, Kody. You stopped showing up for me, for us. When Robin entered the picture, everything changed. You told me intimacy was off the table, that love had to be earned. Well, I gave you 25 years of loyalty. Wasn't that enough? Kody couldn't meet her gaze. He looked away. Angela continued gently. Christine, regarding the Coyote Pass property, were you ever given a written agreement about your share? Christine shook her head. No, just promises. Just words. Spoken vows that never meant anything when it came time to divide what we'd built. Angela stepped closer. Did you have any reason to believe the property would be divided equally? Yes, Christine replied. Kody told us that, on and off camera. Her voice cracked but didn't break. But when I wanted to sell my share, suddenly I was the villain. Angela nodded. Did you profit from that sale? Christine shook her head again. No. I used the money to care for my kids, to move Truly somewhere safe. I didn't sell out of anger. I sold out of survival. Angela's tone deepened as she asked the question that silenced the room. Let's talk about Truly. Why did you relocate her without Kody's permission? Christine inhaled sharply. Because I didn't have time to wait anymore. Truly was hurting. She was growing sick, emotionally, physically. Kody didn't call. He didn't visit. He didn't even check in. She cried herself to sleep every night asking, why does my dad love Robin's kids more than me? The courtroom froze. Truly buried her face in her hands and wept quietly from the gallery. Gwendolyn reached over and wrapped a protective arm around her sister. Angela turned to the judge and said with composure, no further questions, Your Honor. The judge looked toward Kody's lawyer. Cross-examination? The attorney stood, his shoulders tight. Christine, wouldn't you agree that in a family built on trust, even verbal agreements are binding? Christine didn't blink. Only if that trust hasn't been broken again and again, the lawyer continued. Did you consult with the other wives before selling your share? Christine tilted her head slightly. Did Kody consult me before deciding my marriage was over? Before spending every night at Robin's? Before deciding I wasn't worthy of affection anymore? The attorney opened his mouth, but the judge raised a hand. She's responding to your question. Christine folded her hands in her lap. I did what I had to do. For my children. For my dignity. And in that moment, the courtroom didn't just hear her. They believed her. Her words cut through years of whispers, shame, and television edits. Even Janelle, seated quietly in the gallery, couldn't hold back her tears.
Even Saul and Ari about what's going on with Christine. Daniel and Brianna are sad and confused, and
just as the courtroom settled after Christine's fierce testimony, her attorney stood again. Your Honor, the defense would like to call a rebuttal witness, Gwendolyn Brown. Kody jolted upright, his face drained of color, then flushed with anger. Christine froze, lips parted. Gwendolyn rose slowly from the gallery. Her height was striking, her face unflinching. She walked toward the stand not as a child, but as a witness. A witness to everything. Truly stared, wide-eyed. Janelle offered the tiniest nod of support. Robin gripped the bench. Gwendolyn took the oath and turned toward the judge. Angela approached with measured calm. Miss Brown, how would you describe the relationship between your parents during the final years of their spiritual marriage? Gwen didn't blink. Dead. Gasps echoed through the room. There was no love anymore, she added. No communication. Kody was with Robin constantly. Maybe he'd drop by once a week, act like it was a chore. We saw it. Christine felt abandoned, and we did too. But she stayed. For us. She glanced at her father. She gave everything and got silence in return. Angela nodded. And Truly's relocation to Utah. Can you explain how that came to be? Gwen's voice tightened. Truly was falling apart. Stress, migraines, crying at night, struggling in school. Mom begged Dad to step in. He didn't. She didn't move. Truly to hurt him, she moved her because no one else would. Kody's attorney stood. Objection, hearsay. The judge didn't flinch. This witness lived in the household. Overruled. Gwendolyn leaned forward, voice fierce. You want betrayal? Let's talk birthdays missed, graduations skipped, family meetings that never happened. You weren't there, Dad. Not for me. Not for Truly. Not for anyone beyond Robin's door. Kody's jaw flexed. Robin reached for his arm. He pulled away. Angela took a single step forward. Gwendolyn, why testify now? Gwen's voice broke. Because I've watched my mom cry herself to sleep. I've watched her carry us all. And I've heard people, our own father, call her selfish. She's not. She's a survivor. The judge turned to Kody's table. Would the plaintiff like to cross-examine? Kody stood abruptly. Robin whispered something to him. He sat back down. His attorney cleared his throat. No questions, Your Honor. Gwen left the stand and slid beside Truly, who hugged her tightly. Christine gripped the table. This wasn't about land. This wasn't about legalities. It was about a woman who had carried everyone for decades, and now her children stood beside her, not behind her. A